Hi, welcome to my next video, and this is a metal detecting video, and I got quite a lot of views on my last video for my Garrett Infinium, which I picked up for about $300 Canadian or something like that on Craigslist. So the Garrett Infinium is a pulse induction machine, and it's supposed to pick up pretty much every kind of metal, including gold. And but unlike some of the other metal detectors that can detect gold, the Garrett Infinium, I think, can't detect fine pieces of gold, like less than a gram, I guess, something like that, or maybe less than a couple grams. So it's not the finest gold detector out there. I haven't found any gold with it. I'm not a pro user. I'm just like pretty much an amateur guy. I've gone out a couple times in the last couple of years to all of the beaches near where I live, and I've also done some grassy areas as well, in parks and stuff. We're in like the pandemic situation, so for a while, I only went out with my metal detector once so far this year. Just the last couple days, I went out once to the beach, and people are using debit cards now all the time, so people don't have much change. So I'm finding that there's less change that you're finding. But anyways, before I use this machine, I wanted to do a couple of modifications to the machine before I used it, and I finally got around to doing those modifications. So this machine has been, I already tried to modify it once to run it on like a cordless battery for like drill and stuff, but I didn't have much luck, and I think that there was it wasn't the correct power, or I didn't try the right battery, so I kind of gave up on that. So this is the second modification I make. So yeah, well, I made another modification. One of the other modifications I made was I made a carbon fiber. I bought some carbon fiber on Craigslist or on eBay, and I made a. I already did a video showing a little bit about it, but this is the original end tip, and this is carbon fiber, and I had to drill out the old fiberglass. Those fiberglass inside here that had to be drilled out from the original, and then I was able to drill it all out, get all the old fiberglass out, and then put this new fiberglass rod in there with epoxy. And on the other end, I just epoxied. I cut the carbon fiber where I wanted it, and then I epoxied it in here, so it doesn't come apart now. It's just like one piece. And then I put this leather grip on right there, and then this is a new piece that I got on eBay, and it's kind of a padded stand and grip combo. So it's just two aluminum pieces that screw on these, and I got these nylon bolts. So yeah, so this is kind of the new handle with the carbon fiber here. That was one of the mods I did when I got it. And the other mod that I did when I got the Garrett Infinium is I bought a good sized quantity of 2-part epoxy, and the whole bottom is redone in 2-part epoxy, as you can see, and it's like it looks perfect. It's really durable. So as you can see, that 2-part epoxy that I put on the bottom, it's holding up really well. So that was the other mod that I did when I got the and this is the original large power double D Infinium coil. So I haven't had any experience using the smaller monocoils and the smaller double D coils. So yeah, those are the two mods that I did. Now I'm going to show you the last mod I did with my Infinium, or the latest mod that I did with my Infinium. And on eBay you can buy like aircraft connectors. I think they're called aircraft connectors. And this is kind of what the connectors look like. This is one I bought that I didn't end up using. But you can buy these aircraft connectors from like Asia or China or whatever. And as you can see, they're basically like so. I'll try to focus in on that. So that's what they look like. They're like they're little connectors like that. So you solder them on this end, and then here's the other end, and they just go together like so. Like that. Try to focus in on that. So yeah, those are the connectors right there. And that's kind of, they're really good connectors because they're very, you can push them together and then they screw together. So that's what they are. They're all screwed down. And they're like, I think they're called aircraft connectors or something like that. They're really durable. So I got these on eBay. And this one is a 2-pin. So this one's good for, I was going to use this one for I was going to use this one for the headphone jack. But I ended up using the one that you can see on there. This is what I ended up using, and it is an actual like 1/4-inch headphone jack right here, and I just screwed it in. It's a generic type, and I made the hole the right size, and I was just able to screw it in. I didn't even make threads. And this is a little adapter, so you can use a mini jack. So 1/4-inch to mini jack. And so I just had this lying around because I do a lot of electronics, like audio stuff, and you can see it unscrews. I'll show you. It's loose there, so it's just screws in like that. So that's my new jack, and it sticks out a little bit. You can see it sticks out a little bit, but that's my new audio jack. So I don't have to use the proprietary 2-pronged jacks from Garrett. And so anyways, here's the other jack that I replaced. So this is the jack for the let's try to focus that. This jack is for the excuse me. It's for the it connects the lower part of the metal detector, right? So it's got 4 pins. So it's a 4-pin cable. So I chopped the old one off, cut the old one off right here, and this is the new connector. And it's soldered on there. There are four wires in here, and there's 4 pins in here that you can solder to. And then there's a crimping, like two crimping screws right there. You can see those. So this is for the coil. This is the wire to connect your coil. Now the reason I replaced this connector is because the other connector that Garrett used, what happens is that I put my backpack on and I take my metal detector apart and throw it in my backpack, and then I go where I want and I go metal detecting. So I'm constantly taking apart my coil, unscrewing my coil from the metal detector. And so I wanted something that I could really unscrew and screw in lots of times, and it was really heavy duty and durable, and there wasn't going to be any problems with it. And this is why I switched connectors to this 4-pin connector. And as you can see on the other side of the Garrett, on the back of the Garrett here, is the other side, is the connector. So it just goes in like this. It even lines up. It has a little slot so you can line it up so it never gets misaligned. So that's what it looks like. And then it actually screws down too. So it's got a screw in so it doesn't come out. So there's a screw in collar on that. So that's my new connector that I've put in the Garrett. It just pulls off like that. There we go. So you can see that part. So to do all this, I had to get myself a new drill bit. So I got this bad boy right here. This bad boy right here. This bad boy drill bit. Look at this sucker. It's 9/16 drill bit. So it's just a hair over a 1/2 inch. 9/16. So this is a metal drill bit, but it worked fine with the plastic case. So this is the drill bit that I used to make the holes bigger so that I could fit the new housing, the new connectors into the case. And you need like a 1/2 inch chuck for your drill. So if you don't have a 1/2 inch chuck, you need a bigger drill chuck to use this drill bit. But these drill bits are pretty expensive to buy these. This one's a cobalt style or whatever, cobalt one. And I got this from Toronto, Ontario, Canada. And it was from a company called Accu something tools. Accu-size tools. It's near Toronto. It's either in Toronto or around Toronto, Ontario, Canada. So yeah, I got these on eBay, and I think this was it's a really nice drill bit, and it's good for metal and wood. Probably is fine in wood. It's really nice and sharp, and it looks like it's really well made, and it did a really great job. So yeah, it's called a Silver and Deming drill, 135 split point gold and black color, ANSI HSS M35, 5% cobalt, 1/2 inch shank, 9/16 diameter. So yeah, you need a drill bit like that if you want to do this modification. So I'll show you some of the other parts, like this part here is a little this is part that goes on to the headphone jack. But when you buy this part here, it comes with this, and it's actually it's a 1/4 inch TRS plug, and it's just supposed to be for soldering on cable. So I just took this part off, and then you're left with the threads, and I threaded it in there. It just happened to work. I wasn't really planning on doing that. That's why I bought this other pin thing. But I said, hey, what you know, this is actually going to be easier if I just use this jack, then I don't have to do any more messing about. So it was a good solution. Now these are the original connectors for Garrett for the Infinium, and they look like they're sort of rubber with pins, like rubber with gold-plated pins, and they look really finicky. And you know, these connectors are like, they're waterproof, which is really cool. Like you can actually with the Garrett Infinium, you could actually go diving with this before with these connectors. But they're not good connectors if you want to take your metal detector and take it apart with you and go places. And if you're constantly taking it apart, putting it back together, I can just see that these are useless. Like these are going to break in no time. So I didn't want to keep using these connectors, and I didn't trust them. You know, they're not really, they don't have a good feeling of there's like this tiny little pin that goes in this little hole, and I can just see, you know, I can just see them breaking off and stuff like that. So that's one of the reasons I changed these out. So as you can see, these are the old connectors. And I was having problems with the headphone connector too. So there's the other part too that I took off. That was on the cable going into the bottom. So anyways, I'll talk to you about so that's just one of the modifications that I made to my Garrett recently. Those two, the 1/4" cable jack and the this 1/4" cable jack right here. This is new. So I thought about also doing Bluetooth, but I don't give a shit. It's not, I don't want to go to that length to do it. So that's one of the new modifications. The other modification I made is this connector here. And if you've never taken apart this Infinium, I'll tell you how to do it. Is that you unscrew the batteries, right? Take the batteries out like that. There's your batteries. Takes 8 AA batteries. It'll last you about 6 hours. And if you can't really see inside there, but inside here there's 3 Phillips screws, and there's 2 springs. The springs are for the battery contacts. So there's 2 screws that are near the springs, and then there's 1 screw on its own that's away from the springs, and that's a screw you gotta unscrew. So if you unscrew that, this whole top will just come out, slide out, right? And then you can see your circuit board, and it's got connectors that you can take off. So you can disconnect the circuit board, and then you can drill this hole larger, take off the old connector, and then drill this hole out. And then you can take this connector off and drill that hole out. Put these in, put this in, screw it in. It's got a bolt on the other side to screw it in tight. So you can screw that in. You got to solder this all up. There's a connector that you got to solder onto the other side of this. You got to match the colored wire. There's 4 color wires on this one. There's like a white and black and a red and a green. So you've got to solder those up. And then you've got to match. There's 4 color wires on this, and you've got to match these wires so that they, when you connect it up, you know, the green goes to green, red goes to red, black goes to black, and white goes to white. And then you put it all back together. Put it all back together. And the last thing that I did too in this modification is I wanted to have it so that I could just hang it around my neck, hang the detector around my neck, which is, I'm actually loving it now. So I actually had a hole drilled right through the front here. That's because I had a wire running through there because I was trying to run it off batteries, off rechargeable batteries. But anyways, as you can see, I took a shoelace and I put the shoelace into that hole, and the hole is small enough that I knotted it on the other side so that it's not going to come through, and then I knotted it on this side, and that's kind of my loop for my camera strap. So now I have it on a camera strap, and the last time I went out I had this around my neck, and I'll tell you something, it's a lot, you have a lot more energy because your arm, it used to be all of the weight was of this thing was on my arm along with the coil, and now that I have this hanging around my shoulder, or my neck and my shoulder, the weight is off my arm, so I find it's a lot more funner to go out now. So this is just an old camera. This is an old strap that I had from a camera bag. So those are my modifications. So I put a strap on, a new 1/4" connector for TRS for my headphones, a new 4-pin connector for the coil, and I put the other connector on the other side of the coil as well. So those are my second set of mods for the Garrett Infinium. And I'll just talk about the Garrett Infinium. Now I've had the Garrett Infinium for 2 years now, and I have some really rough conditions because where I live in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada, we're right beside the Pacific Ocean, and there's a lot of mineralized sand, and so it can be pretty tough in the mineralized sand to use this detector. So one of the, as you can see, these are the settings that I had it on when I was using it at the beach. I didn't touch these settings. I just turned the detector off and I came home. So these are the settings that I'm using on the sand. And as you can see, I've got discrimination way up. Look at discrimination is at like 8. And threshold is at 3.5. So that just shows you what I'm fighting against when you're at the sand, because it's so heavily mineralized, the sand, that it's going to be giving you false settings all over the place. And so just through trial and error, I had to move the setting right up to 8. Now, and the other thing you're going to find too is that when you have fresh batteries, your settings might be a little bit different, just because I guess the slightly different voltage when you have fresh batteries. So you might have to adjust it, like after a couple hours of use, you might find you have to do some small adjustments with your detector. The other thing to do is the other thing that is to do the frequency check, and that is just to put this dial over to frequency check, and then you can move this dial to change the frequency that it's operating frequency. The other thing to do is there's slow and fast and lock. So you have to mess with the ground balance too. So my advice is just play around with the ground balance, like try it on fast, try it on slow, try to ground balance it on fast and lock, try ground balancing it on slow and lock, and the other thing to do, which is critical, is take a quarter out of your pocket or a dime out of your pocket or a little piece of metal, throw it in the sand, and play with your detector, play with all the settings until you get a nice signal when you hit that coin, right? When you hit that piece of metal that you know you put in the sand. You can even put it on the top of the sand, it doesn't even matter. Just when you wave your detector over it, what you want to hear is you want to hear a nice solid beep, beep, not a like just a hard beep, right? And the other thing too is you want no lag. You want it to be a fast beep. So when you hit it, you want it to go beep, like right when you hit it to go beep, beep, or double beep or whatever, right when you hit the object. And sometimes you really have to play around with the settings to get that hard beep, so that when you hit over it, it'll go you know. So that's how you do it. So when you go to the beach or whatever, you know, throw your coin in the sand, get your detector out, and run it over that object until you get the settings you want. Otherwise, you're just going to waste a couple hours, because you're going to get, especially in heavily mineralized sand, you're going to get, you know, false beeping all over the place, and it's just going to be a mess. So this detector is not for the faint of heart. This is the first metal detector I've had, and it's like I really jumped into the deep end when I bought this metal detector. This is probably the hardest metal detector for anybody to buy and use. I've heard a lot of people just buy it and then they ended up selling it because they get an easier to use one. So anyways, like, yeah, I've done a lot of mods over it. It is a lot of fun, and when you actually have it set up properly, it's pretty, you know, it's pretty idiot proof. It takes a heck of a lot of time to set it up, but then once you set it up, you know, it'll just basically blast in your ears when you hit a piece of iron or something. It'll just blast on you. It's, you know, exactly when you hit, like, I go to one beach and there's lots of iron nails and stuff, and you know, it'll just, like, basically it'll blow your eardrums off when it hits a piece of iron or something. So anyways, like, good luck with the hobby. The Garrett Infinium is a nice little piece of gear because it's probably the best machine that Garrett came out with, and you can get them on good discount prices now for like $100 or something. So if you want to take the plunge into pulse induction, I haven't used many other detectors, so I can't really comment on like the Garrett ATX or anything like that, or White's, because White's has one that's called the Gold Bug, I think, or something like that. That's supposed to be pretty cool. The White Gold Bug is supposed to be able to find gold within like half a gram or something. So anyways, I'll give you some more updates if I do some more metal detecting in the near future. I'll give you another update on to how things turn out as I go. So who knows? It's only the beginning of, it's like the middle of June right now, so I should be able to go out a few more times and cover a lot of the beaches out here. And I'm even planning to go to some schools and stuff, since all the schools are closed. I might try to hit the schools too, like the playgrounds and stuff. So anyways, good luck metal detecting for everybody, and I hope everybody's safe, and hope everybody is keeping busy and staying happy. And check out my other videos. Thanks for watching.